Welcome to the Flakemiri podcast. Yeah, this is a show about Gwent, but so much more. I'm Flake. I'm joined not by Shinmiri, but by someone else who you might know. I'm joined by Pawel Burza. How are you, my friend?
Man, it's awesome to be here. I'm a fan of the show, so it's great to actually be on the Flakemiri show without having either Flake or Shinmiri in my name.
Well, we were gonna call it like the Flurza podcast, I suppose, like for just for today. But yeah, Shinmiri had some scheduling stuff to do, and he said the show must go on. Do it without me. I said, who are you again? What's your name? I don't even. So I knocked on a few doors, and you were one of the gracious people who came through. And I had some other people who were like, yeah, I'll do it, absolutely. And then I was like, and then you said me, and I said, okay, well, I'm sorry, I have to go with my bratishek, and we have to do this. So thanks again, man. But yeah.
Easy, anytime. I was supposed to open up a Star Wars pod, I think, but that's Shinmiri's job, and I don't have any Star Wars pods. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a Shinmiri thing. Here's a little behind the scenes thing. I write all of the puns for him.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Shinmiri has this very diva-ish kind of style when it comes to this podcast. He just walks in at production time, does his thing, and then scuttles off. Yeah, walks out. Meanwhile, I'm the one writing everything. But that's our deal. The deal is you use your big brain in this 1 hour bracket framework, and I'll do all the legwork, and Mark this will produce it. That's basically our deal. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it kind of feels like our esports events. I also do the run of the show, and then I do all the writing and stuff, and you guys just come and act it out. And then there's you, right? You go like full freestyle, which is beautiful.
Yeah, I don't do scripts. This is another one of those. Like, so in this episode, we're gonna go through a little bit about Gwent Masters and talk about talk about the year and talk about what's coming up and whatnot. But I think that a lot of people like to hear about the sort of behind the scenes stuff that occurs. And when it comes down to it, that's why there's such an interesting dichotomy between myself and Shinmiri, is because Shinmiri is so rigidly adhering to the scripts and the words on the page. And I know that you and I are like, no, these are guidelines. These are just, yeah. It's like,
they're like bullet points you need to hit, like in order just to keep like the information flow going, like the things you're supposed to pass on, but you don't have to say them like, word for word.
Precisely. Yeah. Because nowhere on the script does it say, that we're plugging into the matrix and the players are, transcending through space and time. No one wrote that because no one is that nerdy, but sometimes that's how it passes through. But yeah, they're like directions. Like it's just like some people could be very precise with their directions. Google maps it with, precisely. And other people are like, yeah, just go there and turn left and you'll see it. You're fine. Like that's kind of how you and I operate. And I love it we should also mention that based on the popularity of this podcast, we have acquired exactly 0 sponsors. So, right? I know we are the big time. So you're on a big stage. There you were.
But you guys are starting off, right? So it's like you need to get your momentum going.
It's slowly but surely, and I think that it's actually picking up the pace, and I would like to see it. And I don't know how much of that is people who just want to tune into Shinmiri and tolerate me. Like they put up with my garbage, but I mean, Shinmiri doesn't really have he doesn't have like a YouTube channel. When he produces content, I don't know if you know this. I didn't want this to turn into like just us ragging on Shinmiri, but
it will be.
But it will be because he's not here. But it's funny because like the content that he produces, like other people will do like these high production value YouTube deck guides and whatever. And Shinmiri releases like a Google Docs kind of like Excel spreadsheet. He's like, yeah, and it works, and that's what's freaking hilarious, and it's so on point for Shinmiri. It's that he's like, yep, here's a spreadsheet, and here's a protractor, and you can go and build your own deck with these easy instructions. It's like, okay,
Yeah, but the value in it is incredible. Like, it doesn't matter how you pass it on. The value in what he's passing on, the knowledge that he's like giving you is incredible, right? So that's what they go for.
Perfect. There's no fluff. There's no nonsense. Today, just this morning, and I tweeted about it, I saw somebody releasing a deck guide calling the deck a meta breaker. And one thing that really just puts ants in my pants. I don't know how else to properly say this, but is when somebody calls a deck a meta breaker, especially when the cards are not even 24 hours old and they're like, bust open this brand new meta with this deck. What meta? What meta are you talking about? Like,
there's no meta yet.
No,
there will be one. And it's already breaking the one that will come in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, like use your powers for good. Don't use your prognostication powers, all this like foresight and you know, psychic abilities on breaking future metas. Go solve crimes. Like it just bothers me that is the clickbait that you've chosen to sort of sell your deck list, is that it's a quote unquote meta breaker. Like all these these buzzwords like that just really, like I said, I don't know what else to say except puts ants in my pants, and I think that's
it's just for clicks, man. It's the same with any type of like YouTube content that you have that has the, you know, clickbait titles, so people just click on it, see it, and they're like, oh my god, this is gonna change my life. This is gonna, you know,
number 4 will shock you. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to watch it in order to see like what the content is, and then you kind of watch and you're like, okay.
So one option we can use for this podcast as a clickbait is we could finally tell people about the truth about Dagon, because frankly, I mean, now that you, like Shinmiri and I are, I mean, we're well nested within CDPR and the development of the game, but nobody knows it more intimately than yourself and like Vlad, etc. So why don't you give us the official word on Dagon? Because we just got 12 cards. And Dagon wasn't there, and I kept telling people, don't count on it, but you're here now, so maybe you could drop a nice little leak on us.
Yeah, I have a leak for you for sure, and yeah, Dagon is not happening. Sorry, folks.
Oh, I love baiting people out like this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Every tournament, I usually say something silly, like when we're talking about the leaks at the tournament, and I was mentioning about how I'm like, oh, once the fog clears, we're going to get 12 new awesome cards, and by the time the day is gone, you're gonna see some pretty cool stuff. And now
yeah,
like 90% of people are catching on, but there's always one who will post like in Discord or something. They're like, did you hear what he said? Did you hear what he said? I think that's a clue. And I'm like, yes, dance puppets, dance my puppets.
It's a lot of wordplay, don't you?
Oh, it's my most favorite of things, because like I always tell people on my stream, I'm like, I'm not in, you know, I get stuff in advance. Yeah, sure. Like I'm part of it. I can't share that stuff, but at the same time, like I'm not part of the development team. Like I'm not creating cards. I'm not part of sort of steering the ship. I'm merely there. You know, I have like a front row seat. So when things do come into view, I get to see them before everyone else. Right. So
yeah, sure.
That's awesome. But like people who rely on me for information, it's like, you have misplaced your trust, friends, because I will absolutely play you like a fiddle, and I do.
Yeah, but you get early access to content before we release stuff, so you pretty much kind of know. Plus, you also have the possibility to actually, you know, interact and talk with our design team. So it is something on top of that. But people also think that since you have this thing, that you have the possibility to know everything or know like what the next 3 steps ahead will be. While, you know, these are things that are kind of still staying internally where we are. And the stuff that we discuss, we go back and forth. And we also like filter through those things before we actually show them to you guys. And then there is an additional kind of time and filter until it's shown to the public, right? So you're kind of in between kind of, I have to say, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Like we're in that kind of phase of, like we're in the soft launch category whenever stuff, you know, like when a store opens and it's like, okay, invite your friends and family and we'll see how you guys are so terrible at stuff. And then you guys can tell us how to fix it. So that's kind of us. We're the friends and family who show up and be like, okay, here's a few things that need to be changed. And not everything can always be perfect. And that's one thing that, that's for another podcast. But either way, what I do like to do every episode is like to kind of go back in time a little bit, a year ago today, or I think it was actually today or tomorrow. I think it was December 8th or 9th. Way of the Witcher came out as an expansion, which a lot of people thought was, or still think is probably one of the most pivotal and very impactful expansions. And I don't know your involvement particularly with that, with that expansion, but that was a pretty big one. Like that Adrenaline came out, all the Witchers and stuff. Like that was a pretty sweet expansion.
I will remember I was working on the trailer for that one, and we had the full arts for the Witchers, and they looked so incredible, like the extended arts. So not just the car frame like you would see it, but the whole thing. And we had those coming into the trailer, and those were animated, and I remember it was really cool. I wasn't very keen on the key visual for the first time when we were working on it, where we were seeing like first versions from the artists. But then once it started like getting, its look, then yeah, like the bear witchers and the cat witchers, and the way that they were portrayed in that one, I was like, wow,
Yeah,
amazing.
some of the pictures of like the major witchers, like like Arnagad and Gezras and stuff like that, like they all have a very similar feel of it's just kind of like the witcher itself themselves in like a pose or a stance, and
Yes.
it's very isolated, so you're getting a really clear image of who that person is.
And the
And
background behind them was really awesome because it
yeah,
was like, yeah, it made them look like iconic, like pretty much that they're like almost, like statues in
yeah,
a certain way.
like
Yeah,
they're like storied, right? Like they're like it's just something you'd see on a tapestry, like this is our hero kind of thing, like that. And
exactly.
it did it really well. I feel like it was really on point where you're kind of stamping in on what the expansion's supposed to be, which is like centric around these major witchers and these big impactful cards. But 2 years ago in 2019, we got Merchants of Ophir, and maybe not as impactful, but this was a very significant patch because I think this is the one that introduced poison, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And Rodea,
that
right?
well, Rodea was in there. You had stuff like Moral and like the poison package, the Fangs of the
hmm
Empire, and like the
Oh, so good.
yeah,
I just love the theme behind that one. I was really, really for the theme.
it was great. I think that like the theme and the flavor of it was really cool. I remember when Poison came out, it was one of the things where people thought Poison was an absolute joke, that it was a waste of time, and then Poison became like people
They-
started to play it and try it. I think it might have been Pumpkin or something who was like Poison's actually good. And then once
Yes,
once somebody says it, like somebody of prowess or
it
somebody with a
becomes a
following,
thing, right?
precisely, then people will finally like the immediate reaction to Poison was like, I have to spend 2 cards to remove 1 unit, like that's absolutely stupid. And then there was the nuance of it, of like the threat of Poison, of
hmm
the pressure that you're putting on a player by putting a Poison
Yeah.
on their unit. So,
Playing around it also was very important.
and that was
So it
before
was it was a
Veil,
nice
right?
mechanic. Yeah, that was before Veil.
Yeah, so great set again. Like every set seemed to introduce a new feature, which was cool. Like you had Adrenaline that came out with Way of the Witcher. You had poisons and stuff. You had, I think, Vitality and Bleed came out with Crimson Curse.
Yeah,
Armor was with Iron Judgment or Iron Justice. Iron
exactly.
Judgment. Yeah, so
Iron Judgment. Iron Judgment.
I kept calling it Iron Justice, I think, on the podcast back in the day.
Rather bit. It was coming back to also trailers because I get to work on those. So the one for Iron Judgment was like one of the most labor intensive when it comes to the number of departments that we're working on in order to do that, Radovid and going into the tent and stuff like that. So him looking all clad in all that armor, so that was a difficult one for sure. And yeah, for me still like the music, hands down, yeah, it has to be Merchants of Fear. Like,
Yeah, these are great
yeah,
expansions. I mean, I don't even recall what expansion I didn't like. Like, I think that every single expansion had a decent impact. Like, there were some obviously that blew everything out of the water. Like, I feel like Way of the Witcher was a very impactful one. Price of
yeah,
Power
it's
was very
true.
impactful.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was one hell of that was like a 1-2 punch followed by an uppercut. Like all 3 of those expansions came down and dropped some significant bombs, but like that's like part of it is the fact that people don't want cards that are not. I don't say not interesting. I think that the biggest challenge that Gwent faces is not just creating strong cards, but creating fascinating, unique cards. And these 12 cards
Yeah,
that dropped, I think, all have really, really cool abilities that are not necessarily out there with other things. Like trying to sit down and figure out how one of those Nilfgaard cards is going to be impactful or how it's going to actually be strong. And then realizing, like I was playing a game yesterday and somebody played, I forgot which one. Is it Ardal or I forgot who it was, the one who reorders your cards by provision.
yeah.
And
So Arno.
yeah, and I was there and I'm thinking, I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, if this person does this correctly, they'll always have this card in hand. They'll always play it first, and then they'll always know what their draws are, which means that they'll always know what their Joaquin is getting. They'll always know what their this is getting, their that is getting, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, that this could be, I feel like that could probably be the most breakable of lists, where precisely the order of how things are going, and like everybody's talking about Radovid being super strong, Milva being incredibly I don't want to say oppressive. Oppressive's not the word, but it's an additional piece to an archetype that people already don't like, or I mean, like there's so many. I like these 12 cards, man. Like all this to say, it's just badass.
The thing is that some of them kind of feel like their power level maybe is a little bit crazy, but that was kind of the idea. The thing is, like, through a lot of these, you can build a lot around them, right? So I think that's super important.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And like, if you're gonna be dropping like a 12 card pocket of cards to per faction, they need to actually be able to shake up the meta until the next block of cards are released. You know, they need to actually have some sort of ripple effect on the meta, and that's exactly what's doing until the meta breaker comes, Pawel. And then who knows that it's chaos, that we have no idea.
Meta breakers always, come sooner or later. So
yeah, for sure. So that's that, man. And like again, that's us just perusing through the scripted portion, I guess, of Flakemiri, which is funny because usually this takes like 30 seconds and we've managed to stretch this out by like 15 minutes.
Always. Why not? I mean, it's been a big week. I mean, we're starting off, we're just day after the update. So, I mean, 9.6, 12 new cards, a lot of balance changes, a lot of things happening in Gwent. Some problematic stuff, which I know we might be fixing if it comes to that. So, yeah, I mean, it's a big week. There's a lot to discuss.
Yeah, I don't want to pressure you on any of this information because it's not like, that's not what this podcast is about. This isn't. I know. Yeah. So if feel free to just drop us with any bombs that you're happy to drop on us. I mean, you already told us that Dagon is basically a pipe dream that's never happening, and I'm okay with that. Here's one. How about Renfree? Because when the 12 cards were released and Renfree wasn't a thing, the first thing I thought about was like, that guy has. He's got like another 120 cards that you got to make just to stay up to date until the next like card patch or whatever. Like, where are we with Renfree? Because I feel like I'm doing this guy a little bit of a service here if you were just to put him out of his misery and just say, just stop. It's not happening. It's stop. Like,
no. We have to do it. Like, we have to do it. Like, it's been something that we've been discussing for quite some time. Discussing this also when Jason was game director. He was like, oh man, we got to give this guy a break. And now Vlad was saying the same thing at the time. It's just we need a little bit more time. But yeah, it is. Renfree is something that we want to introduce for sure. I don't know what take on to be. I know that, we kind of want it, but there's some other things are kind of going around this. So it's a tougher one, but Renfree is something that will happen.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So maybe this is good enough for this guy to just kind of like chill. Like, because by now I think he's on. I don't know what number he's on.
I have no idea, but it's high up there.
Yeah, it's definitely high up there. I'm gonna check right now because I saw it this morning, and I was most definitely. No, that's not it. Okay. Well, either way, he's definitely in the. I believe it's a he. Forgot is a Dr. something. Dude's name. Either way.
I mean, you gotta admire the passion, right? Like, being
certainly
so motivated in order to create so many things just to get that one card is crazy.
Certainly, but I mean, I've also admired the passion of Screech on Saved by the Bell, who tried to ask out Lisa for like 7 consecutive seasons, but it didn't happen. So that's a deep cut for some people.
Yeah.
Here we go. Posting a custom card every day until Renfree is added to Gwent. Number, do you want to take a guess?
345.
Oh, no, that's too much. But we're at 252. 252.
Nice.
Dude, that's like... That's a lot of time. Like, you could, but in 200. So let's just assume. How long do you think it takes this dude to actually think of a card, post the card, do the art, and do it. How much of this person's day do you think this takes up?
It depends. It depends if it's like something that he does on a daily commute. For example, like sitting and pondering ideas and writing them down in a notebook, then you're kind of, you say like have 30 or 40 minutes or an hour to commute, let's say. So you get to like note those down and get one or two maybe. It depends how detailed he wants to get into them. And then, you have a list of them and then you start producing content out of that list. But I think like, I don't know, an hour maybe, or you think a little bit more?
Yeah. Like the way that you said it makes it sound like he's like Eminem in 8 Mile on the bus writing lyrics to like start his rap career. Like that's the way I picture it. And he's just like, yeah. But
I'm feeling it.
Yeah, for sure. But like 252 hours, like you could start a band and already have an album done by now. Like in that time, I feel. Look. Again, like I said, I would never want to crush somebody's passion or ever downplay someone's creativity. Wow. So my sincere, what's the term? Sympathies is the first one, I guess, but also encouragement.
Kind of awe, maybe.
Awe is a good one.
For me, it's like awe, because it's always crazy to see how dedicated people can be. Like, for example, for me, maybe sometimes I do not take it for granted that I am working where I'm working, but when I'm interacting with the community and talking to people, they kind of put the light on it that I see it a little bit more, and I appreciate it a lot more when someone's telling you, oh, it's really cool that, you're there, like best company, I love your work and stuff like that. I love this game, blah, blah, blah. Like it starts getting into your head and you're like, oh, wow, I'm really actually there and I get to interact with these people on a daily basis and I get to see all the behind the scenes. I get to leak stuff for fun. And you really appreciate it. And then you kind of see how this thing grows, right?
Yeah. And for the record, I guess you mentioned it earlier, is the fact that this Renfree dude is actually on CDPR's radar, right? Like Jason's aware, Vlad's aware, you're aware, and it kind of has been nudging you guys towards making it. Now, this isn't really a call out to everyone out there where if you want something to go on this pseudo hunger strike of creating a new card every day until you get what you want. That's not the ideal thing, but this person really took a stand, and at 252, perhaps this is a good option for him to maybe take a break and say, hey, I've broken through. So this is maybe Pawel, maybe take an opportunity here to let this guy rest. Like maybe appeal to him, or do you guys get sick pleasure out of this too, to see him create new cards every day?
Oh, but it's really cool. On the one hand, it's also creating a lot of community content, and I see like people like to come up with ideas for cards, and they're like kind of own ideas. And they also like other people coming in and critiquing that or talking about it, or like this will be too strong, or maybe I would tweak it this way or do it that way. It kind of starts the whole conversation. And I think that's something that's very prevalent in any card game, that you discuss cards. You can talk about cards for hours and hours on end, right? So I think also there is some pleasure in also creating that. Plus, he is so well known within the community that everybody's talking about him. Everybody knows him. So it's kind of, maybe he also gets, some pleasure out of that, some positive vibes coming from that.
No, definitely. I mean, you got to I don't want to say make your say, because I don't think that him becoming famous was the objective here. The objective is that this person is an actual fan of a particular character they want to see in the game. So kudos to you. I know that. Yeah, I rag on this guy all the time, and I do it out of a position of love. Again, if I don't tease you, then you're not on my radar, and I don't care about you. Like I have a lot of respect for this person, because I will say this: of the 252 cards that this person has created, a lot of them have been quite unique and interesting. Whereas I'm going to be completely frank here, 90% of the custom cards that are posted on Reddit are like complete, just hot organic trash. And I'm not saying that to, again, discourage people. But they're just like, what are you kidding me? It's like, what if there was a card that was like 6 provisions that was 12 power and drew 2 cards? Like, that seems okay. And everyone's like, yeah,
totally,
this is
fine.
Yeah, perfectly fine. Like,
let's do it.
Yeah, no worries. Absolutely. I get it. Like, and then as some people are like, yeah, this is a perfectly legit card. I mean, if Mamuna can do this, then this should be fine. It's like, okay, relax. Like, just pump the brakes on that there, buddy.
Think about it. If you've introduced something like that into the game, you would get a million other threads saying that this is bad design and stuff like that. Even if you said, wait, by the way, but we took it from you.
Yeah, you should, dude. That would be the ultimate like response, the ultimate
Troll.
revenge is if you guys dropped a 12 card pack of like, you know, as a joke on April Fools, take a 12 card pack of all the custom crap that you guys pick up, all the OP nonsense, or complete like either complete OP nonsense and complete horse garbage, and just release 12. Like give like Scoia'tael some real like and Nilfgaard, whatever the top factions are, give them really OP cards and give all the bad factions really crap cards and be like, here you go. Like, congratulations, you can get these premium, just $49.99, no problem, comes with the leader skin and everything. And then just watch as everyone tears you down and then literally 12 hours later say, these are your designs, you clowns. Like, this is all you. That would
Here's screenshots. Boom, 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 boom.
Oh, that would be so good. Oh, I would love you guys for that.
That would be a big troll, though.
I think, I mean, you could just kind of recycle old art, but I don't think people would even know. Like, even if you dropped it in as without the actual, like, don't drop it in with the, you don't need the art or anything. Just say, here's like do a fake data mining leak and say, here are the new cards.
Design ideas straight from CDPR.
Yeah. Vlad left his email password. He left it as default, and someone went in and saw the new designs, and this is what they are. That would be so good. Oh man,
Vlad forgot his USB stick and someone found it.
That would be so good. If you guys don't do it, I'm just gonna do it. So for all those who haven't listened to this podcast, yeah, you guys are the target for April 1st.
People will forget, like, short attention span by April. Nobody will remember what we said here. So easy.
Of course, I sometimes get comments of like, are you like new to this game? I'm like, yes, I am brand new. I am
totally
100%.
Totally.
I've not been.
Who's
here.
this guy?
Hey, I had been who is this guy for like 3 or 4 years. It is legitimately only up until like the past year or so where people are like, oh, okay, I get him. He's like the smell across the street. Like, yeah, he was annoying for a while, but now we just got used to him. Like, that's basically what it's come down to. Yeah. Look, you enjoy me, but I know I'm not everyone's.
Because you're like best entertainment, right? Plus, your sense of humor, like, is 100% what I love. So it's like, it's natural, right?
I can honestly say that I am probably one of the luckiest people in the business because I know that there's a lot of other entities that I have worked for that might not appreciate my freewheeling nature all the time. There are some who have sort of warmed up to it. They're like, okay, well, he's good at what he does, but every now and then he throws us a curveball and says something that's a little out of left field, you know? So
it's always like behind the scenes when we're doing any tournament and you say something, then everybody like I see Vlad and Repek sometimes like a little bit. I'm just, yes, that was good. So I'm like, because I like that sense of humor, and I also like when people kind of go above and beyond somehow, or kind of on the edge when something is like appropriate, but maybe in some contexts maybe a little bit inappropriate. But I kind of like, riding this on this thin line pretty much.
Oh, it is the thinnest lines, and that's one thing that has always worried me. And the fact that I think that when it comes down to it, like you and I have been working together for like several years, and every time that we're together, we're always just. We're like brothers. Like, it's just kind of how it's been, and it's something where I like, again, with the one person who scares me the most is Jason, because I think that Jason is somebody who just would not take any of my BS ever. Like, he'll deadpan stare me right into my soul and say, that's not funny. And I'm like, damn it. Like, you're the one I need to impress the most. Like, he's always the one who I've always been most intimidated by, because he just doesn't buy my crap, whereas you buy my crap because you like my crap. You also sell the same brand.
Yeah, I've had these situations with him when we're kind of interacting and talking, and you kind of he has a very specific sense of humor, and you either get on that level, or if you don't and you try to like input your type of sense of humor, he either is like ha ha ha, but then you feel like he's looking down on you, like saying, "Yo, kid, that's not funny."
Yeah, that's it.
It's like, but he gets himself those moments where I like you saw the roadmap video that we showed during it's like him like joking and doing his kind of funny jokes to Vlad. Vlad sometimes doesn't know how to react. And we're like.
Yes, that was the one thing I wanted to notice, is that Jason would make these like subtle kind of like, off the track jokes, and Vlad was like, yeah.
Yeah, is this for real?
Yeah.
A couple of them, he had like a very good response. I really like Jason kind of like, yeah, I'm here for you guys. I'm gonna get the truth out of this guy. It's like,
Poor Vlad. Like, Vlad just steps into the role. Vlad, like, always been a professional, always been incredibly open. That's one thing I have to really hammer down here, is the fact that Vlad is, I think, one of my first ever interactions with CDPR employees way back when, before we even did like the first Wild Hunt tournament back in like 2017, I think it was.
Yeah.
He was my first liaison to the company, and somebody who I was so impressed with in terms of the time of day that he gave me back then. Not even when I was on the radar to be a part of the broadcast team, when I was merely just some schmuck broadcasting on Twitch to like 8 or 9 people before we did the Wild Hunt tournament. He was somebody that we reached out to in order to sort of collaborate with or get your approval for this tournament, and he was always exceptionally responsive. So the fact that he is now taking the reins is really awesome. I'm going to say this selfishly for me, because I know that that's somebody that I can trust and that will have my ear if ever I need to say something. Which I say things, but not from a perspective of like the direction of the game, but the community is so lucky that to have somebody like, they were lucky to have Jason, and they're now lucky to have Vlad. And I think that they are two different people, obviously, but you go from something like Jason, who is so passionate and good at directing the game, to somebody like Vlad, who has that same ability, but also somebody who I think people will, even though he has been already up to this point exceptionally transparent and responsive to issues, you guys just still don't know how lucky you're going to be to have somebody like him, unless the power goes to his head and he goes crazy. But I don't see that happening. Like, he's so down pat awesome.
Yeah, I remember when he joined us. He joined us probably before the time that you were talking about. It was like 2016 or maybe even before that. And I remember he joined when we were starting our esports circuit, pretty much. We started doing all the challengers and stuff. Like, we did the first challenger, and then after that, we were like, oh, okay, so we don't know much about esports. Like, we know how to throw a cool event, but we don't know how to make this thing like sustainable. And that's when he kind of came in, and he had previous experience because he was working for Riot Games, right? So he came in and he had this like awesome dose of like professionalism and kind of an idea how to steer like esports in the right direction, because we came up with something, and then he came in and he's like, well, we got to do things differently. So we kind of like, drawing board cleared and started like doing things. And what I also like is he was like, it was a process that even when he was changing things, he was taking community feedback in mind. Like, we were cooperating like very super closely at the beginning, and something that stayed, because we got to a point where we were kind of transitioning in between teams to kind of move our communications team closer to the Gwent team in order to have this, like, because it's much different if you look at our internal structure right now. It's like, in a way that we have a team that is like for all products, so like global, that includes like The Witcher, CDPR as a studio, Cyberpunk, and Gwent, and there used to be like one whole team. And then we, as the communications people for Gwent, we moved out to become a separate entity. And it was me, Vlad, it was Mateusz, who works on the Gwent Masters. He's talking to your ears, and so he's like the executive producer there. And then, we started growing that team within it. So Ryan joined. We also have Anya, who's there. We had the whole video team. And it was slowly, like, I was working with Vlad like super closely, and I still am to this day, because we kind of became a separate entity, because Jason came to us one day. He's like, hey, guys, I have an idea. Why don't you guys come on over to our side, the Gwent side, and let's work super close together, because I really want to know, like, what the community thinks, and I really want us, this interaction to be one-to-one, because you sometimes feel that, when you're working not very close to the developers themselves, you don't really get to know them, you don't really get to interact with them. They only pass on like knowledge to you, which is like in form of, I don't know, patch notes or change lists and stuff like that. Well, it's much different when you're part of their team and you become an entity within their team. So this is something that became a new thing within the structure of our studio. And yeah, I think it also shows kind of the mentality that each game director after Jason will have, that we're all part of this team and we're all pretty much playing to the same, goal field. And yeah, and I think Vlad is on that mentality, which is amazing, and it's only going to make things go in the right direction in this case.
No, and I completely agree. And it's,
Yeah.
again, fascinating insight in terms of how that kind of came to be, that Slama just kind of came in and just reeled you and say, hey, come sit with us. And it's like, ooh, I get this.
It was done that way. And first it was like, 1 day per week, 2 days per week, but then it started just like, no, we need to transition fully in order to communicate. Because I mean, if you think about it, we are working on an online game which is constantly changing. Same as with community sentiment and opinions and ideas and stuff like that. So you need to be very close with the developers in order just to be like, bouncing off ideas. And they also need to feel that you are not some external person like other companies have agencies which do communication for them. It's much different than when you have someone straight, in the studio talking, on a straight line with the developers and passing information back and forth. I think it's much better. And I think it also kind of shows in the roadmap that we showed for next year that, we know that power creep is the buzzword of this year or this set, Press Power, but we are taking kind of your feedback in mind, and we also want to bring back cards which are kind of underperforming, but we also want to introduce cool new tools and cool new stuff and cool new cards, or even cards which maybe aren't too slow, but they have crazy new abilities, in order to, keep also the fire lit under the game. When you're introducing cool stuff, people are like, oh, cool new stuff, I want to play with those, right? So it's a mixed bag of everything.
All right. I have absolutely no idea. This isn't, again, you can just tell me to go fly a kite or something, but I honestly have no idea what the hell Golden Necker project is. Like, not a clue. And this is, I think, out of all the questions I get, like on stream or whatnot, or people who just randomly ask me, they ask me like, what is Gold? And I tell them, like, I have no idea. They don't even trust me to like, like they give me the most rigid of scripts because they don't want me to end. Like, I toss that away, but you think they're going to trust me with anything like of actual significance? No, I don't know any of this. I honestly I didn't even think it was real. I thought it was just a buzz term that kind of Slama threw out there, just as not as a misdirect, but just kind of as a joke, which then sort of caught fire and people kept referring to it, so he kept using it. I didn't know that it was actually tied to an actual project until literally I was only convinced at Masters when we saw an actual pictures and stuff of it. Is there anything that like you can tell me about it? Like this is me appealing it to you as a friend, just one-on-one. Like, I have no idea. Like, there's so much speculation around it, and the one thing that really bothers me is people are tying the fate of Gwent entirely to this mysterious project that nobody knows about. Like, which is ridiculous.
It's funny because Project Golden Necker had the code name Golden Necker because the community kind of created it. It had a different code name and still has a different code name, like how we use it internally, because whenever you work on a project that you want to keep secret, if anything ever leaks, you try to give it a code name. Like Gwent, before we called it Gwent, was Project Seawolf. So sea and wolf, right? It's totally something that you would not imagine. And now we actually have a conference room in the studio, which is called Seawolf. So it all ties together nicely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wolfpack? Like, see Wolfpack buffed? Is that what we're getting at? Is that Project Golden Necker is just like 18 people in a room for a year trying to figure out how to make Wolfpack playable? Is that what it is?
No, but like, I cannot tell you, to be honest. I cannot tell you what it is because I like that we made so much kind of, such a big fog around it that people totally don't know which way we're coming from. Although I've seen a couple people like guess what it is. Like I've seen a couple of people like get it totally right, but someone denied them so quickly that that idea never really caught any traction
Oh
or
man,
became a thing.
there are going to be people going through all the Reddit threads just being like, okay, who had a very intricate, unique
Good
idea
idea.
that got
Which we just declined instantly.
Wait, was it you guys who declined it, or was it the community that declined it?
No, the community like declined it.
The community's like, nah, you're stupid.
Community canceled it like instantly. Like, no, you're not doing that for sure.
Dude, if that isn't like the perfect exhibit in terms of like the initial just complete disconnect that the community has to reality sometimes, where it's like somebody's just like, well, what if this happened, and they're like, you're stupid, go home, you're wrong, incorrect, and then literally that poor person now is just sitting at home, and they're gonna get vindication one day because somebody, when this project is finally released and the details come out, somebody's gonna go dig up their Reddit history, post that up there, and I hope that the entire community awards them like 40,000 whatever the hell the currency is.
Booyah!
Seriously, like that's the ultimate flex. It's like, bam, like just on the table. There it is. I did this, and you guys thought I was crazy. Like Renfree.
Who's the Joker now?
Yeah, for sure. Man, well, it's cool that there's like still stuff burning. Like the way that people were trying to sell it to me and the way that people explained it to me, they're like, oh, so part of it is, and I always sort of push back on this when I see it being discussed, but there was a lot of discussion in certain Discords where they're like, oh, this has to be this, otherwise the game is doomed. And I'm like, well, what does it need to be? They're like, it has to be a PvE environment. I'm like, well, isn't that just Thronebreaker? Like, didn't they do that? Yeah. And didn't Thronebreaker have like a very immersive story, a lot of things to do, very complex and engaging PvE thing? Like, but it's not part of the Gwent client. What the fuck? It's the same freaking game. It's the same rules. Like, okay, so in your Steam library or your GOG category, whatever, it's a different thing. But is that not the exact same thing? Like, I don't get it. Like, how is that gonna change things? They're like, well, you just don't get it. I'm like, I clearly don't get it. I do not get it.
It still draws people in. Like, people play Thronebreaker, then they check out Gwent, and they see that it's something completely different. It's the same thing as like we're nearing till season 2 of the Netflix show, right? Last year when Netflix had their season 1, like we saw a lot of new players coming into Gwent instantly. And well, are we advertised there like hardcore in the TV show? No. Does Geralt, like Henry Cavill, does he play Gwent in the show? No.
Yeah.
But still, it gets us views because it's Witcher. It has Witcher in the name. So whatever is connected to Witchers kind of gets you more visibility. Yeah, that way.
Now, do you have any insight? Do you think that they'll ever put Gwent in the Netflix show? Because I think that would be, I mean, it's a nice callback. It's a nice little, I don't want to call it an Easter egg because I think it's an intimately tied to Gwent or to Witcher 3 enough that it's not really a hidden Easter egg. But do you know if they're going to be putting anything like that in there? Like, they don't contact you guys or anything, right?
No, I don't have that visibility, to be honest. Like, I don't work with them so closely in order to know that.
Like, you're not out there, having like coffee with the producers or like the director.
I would love to be honest. I would love to because I've always been a big like Witcher universe nerd, and it doesn't matter. I watched the Polish TV show which we had, which everybody claims it was bad, but I think at the time was really cool. We had like this. There's this image of this like dragon that was like done with like really bad CGI and stuff like that. I at the time thought it was cool because I was a kid. My parents also didn't let me like watch it because it had a little bit of nudity and stuff like that. Because it was very like grim, violent, and it kind of shows this like Slavic culture that's very gray and grim and stuff like that. And it draws me in instantly. I really like that. So yeah, anything that has Witcher like attached to it, I'm totally like jumping on the bandwagon. Oh, this is so cool, and it still hasn't changed even though I've been working at CDPR for 6 years. It doesn't change. It's like something that whenever we even produce something cool, and I know there's like a lot of Witcher merch and stuff like that. Whenever we have something new, I'm like, oh, that's so cool, because I'm still kind of inside. I'm kind of a big Witcher nerd and fan, and I also like the stories that we do. I like the stories that we do for the journeys. Like, I'm already working on a script for the next journey, like for the character that's going to be there, and it's just incredible. Like I really like that I've transitioned just from being a community manager to a person that can manage his own team. Plus, I get to work a lot on the videos and I get to script a lot of videos. Like all the journeys I do, some of the trailers I do, all the winter events I do those. So it's really cool. It's really cool. It's really fun because I'm not the type of person that likes to sit down and write stuff down, and I'm not very detailed. But when I have an idea, I really love to like put it into an Excel sheet or on paper, and then just like pitch it to people. I'm like, this is my idea. Let's do it. What do you think?
You know what made me laugh was that when you mentioned that your parents wouldn't let you watch the show because there's like brief amounts of nudity, and I just thought of like my Polish side of the family, like my babcia and whatever, which would be like, yeah, you can have vodka shots at the wedding, but don't go out past 7 because that's dangerous. Like, what? Okay, no problem. Like, I'm like, all right, it's a party. Let's go.
That's different. That's different though. Yeah, like you treat it a lot differently than it is in the States, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I guess, man, I was gonna ask you, when it comes down to it, how can because we're always talking about like, like you're in a card. I'm not saying for me, but you're in a card. Slama's in a card. Vlad's in a card. A lot of people are in a card. I always, and I will stand by this. If ever I was offered an opportunity to be in a card, I would pass it up to give someone like I want Devil Driven to be in a card before myself. That is, I will always do that. However, if given the opportunity, yes, there's always a however. There's definitely because I too want my own share. But if ever there was an opportunity to have a voice line that I can do, I feel like my face is not necessarily the best, but I think I can offer a fairly unique voice to a character, or I don't know if there's like a journey. I don't know who I have to appeal to for this, but I want to bust into the voice realm. And I think that maybe I can appeal to yourself, Pawel, being brats that we are, and that perhaps this is something, I don't know how the process works, but like there could be some sort of bronze clown related character, like some sort of syndicate casino clown jester thing that I think I would fit the flavor for.
Don't sell yourself short. I mean, you don't have to be a clown. It could be someone, something. I mean, the thing with voice acting is that it's a totally different realm. Like I've done like briefly just voices for Bafko and stuff like that, and that itself was quite a bit experience. Just going to a professional recording studio, and you're in a studio where you're guided by. In our case, it's a guy that does voiceover for almost any company in Poland. His voice is like from anything from selling to a TV to selling, I don't know, medication for your stomach when you're feeling bad and stuff like that. So it's a guy that does everything. He also works on video games. And he gives you cues how to pronounce things, how to say them. He's like, yeah, more energy or less energy, or try to be more serious, or try to put emphasis on this word and stuff like that. So yeah, that itself is cool. But yeah, we always rely on agencies though. So we would need to probably get you in a recording studio, get it like done super professionally, and then introduce it to the game. But I'm not saying no. I like that idea. I didn't know that you want to go into voice acting.
Look, part of it is the fact that I never believed that I had a voice that would translate well to a particular character, because I think my voice is fairly generic. Like you've worked with people like Merchant, and Merchant has a voice. Like Merchant's voice is Merchant's voice.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, like I was like, holy hell! Like you are James Earl Jones, like but a British white version, which is a lot less. Yeah. It's an odd thing to associate that voice with Merchant. I think the beard helps, but still, if he shaved clean, like I'd be like, that's not you.
Who's that?
Yeah, precisely. But I thought, like, I always figured that my voice was a little bit very generic. It was just kind of run of the mill.
No, come on. You can hear it, like even when I'm listening in on the esports events that we do. When you listen to your voice, it has this specific tone to it that I think it passes through, right? Like some voices kind of like. No. The voice is like cut through when you're listening. They're very like they're audible in a way that you like. Some people either have a good voice for the same with podcasts. Like you have podcast hosts who have a great voice, great pronunciation. They talk in an awesome way, and then you have people who are like, why is this guy doing a podcast? I can barely understand what he's trying to say, and his voice is like, hey. But you don't have that voice. You have that like it goes through. I don't know how to explain it better, but
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, God, I hope so, because like this is kind of how I pay my rent is doing this kind of stuff. So it's nice to have, but yeah, man, like if ever that was an option, like I will
I'll
do
keep
what
it
it
in
takes,
mind.
man. I don't know who you're gonna talk to. This is and again, I didn't mean to corner you on this because you could literally
No,
what
easy.
I'm gonna just tweet out as soon as I hit like end record. I'm just gonna tweet out. Yeah, he told me to go f myself like immediately. He's like, it's over, not happening. Oh man.
Nah,
Are you
no,
ever
no way.
are you ever gonna like what's the process for like putting people into cards? I'm not saying for myself. I'm just
Ooh.
wondering, like, is this it's a because like a lot of it is obviously there's the people from the design team, but
Mhm.
like I think one of them was like Adriano de Miglia is Garuna, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
he started out like I think he was the first ever streamer that was like a big deal within Gwent to a
Uh-huh.
degree. I think at least when I started streaming Gwent and paying attention to it, he was the tits. He was the top dog, and
Yeah.
um, uh, then he joined the team, and then he got a card, and I was like, okay, I see how it goes. And maybe is Ryan the next one to get a card? Like I'm really curious. I love
It's
seeing this.
weird. It's weird because it's a process, and the list of people that want to be on cards is ever growing because it's not only people who work on Gwent, but there are also people who come in from throughout the whole company and they want they want to be on a card. And it's been done in a way that you're on the list and you either get in or you need to wait. So it's like getting into a club.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are people who cut in line. So there are people who cut in line. So if they really are doing it for the game and they're very like, they're very seen, let's say, within like our internal bubble, they instantly get bumped up on the list in order to get their card, done quicker. And I also think community catches on to it. But I don't know about Ryan, to be honest. I don't know. For me, it was easy. I didn't need to really apply through process uh, because it wasn't a thing yet at that time. But someone told me that, hey, wouldn't you want to be on a card? I think it was one of the previous game directors. I would be totally honored if that's possible. Like, yeah, you're the face of the game. It would totally make sense, but we need to like create a character for you. And then yeah, you see like all the creative minds kind of go in, and you see like I think it was Mateusz Tomaszkiewicz who was behind Thronebreaker as one of the main directors when it comes to the story and the quests and stuff like that. So he created the idea of Pavko kind of being a person who helps out the elves. He brings leeks and other veggies to them, so to Broccolon Forest in order to trade with them and stuff like that. So it made kind of sense at that time. And then Lorenzo just like we went outside and he's like, oh, we went outside the office. He's like, I need to take a couple photos of your face. Can you pretend that you're trying to fire a bow with an arrow in it? And then he took like photos and then he started like working and sketching stuff. And then like, dude, that's incredible. And you only got that from my photo. Easy. It's like photo actually helped me a lot. So I was like,
Like it's just so cool, and like the process of it. It's not like there's okay, we have someone already created. We just need to like just Photoshop your face onto them. Like it's a whole process, which is really damn
yeah,
cool. Nah, that's pretty sweet. Like in
that's
terms of,
incredible.
but you're right. I mean, when it comes down to actually being immortalized into something like, I could not think of a cooler way to be remembered than to have a card. Like I don't care if it's playable or not. I honestly do not care. The fact that there's a card game out there, it's out there. Like buy the NFT of my stupid face or whatever it is. Like it's just like it's such a cool thing, and I like that that's something that you guys do. As I don't want to say like as a reward, but it's definitely a nice treat to say like, hey, thanks for doing what you guys do, and here's a card. I just like I feel like the professor is kind of like where I would like just the glasses kind of thing. It's also a really a card that I love, and I'm like,
He's
yeah.
really cool.
Oh
Yeah.
man. All right. Well, so usually we do a mailbag, but we're not doing a mailbag this episode because, frankly, the questions that we fielded are all I always say, I'm like, please don't ask us to balance cards because that's not what we do. Nor is it what you do.
Well, Shinmiri.
Well, yeah. Well, okay. Look,
For days, you could talk about that. But the whole podcast would be him analyzing cards and going into details like, yeah, I'll tweak this provision a little bit here, and I'll probably change this ability a little bit to this way. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would never let him do that. Like that's
Like,
just
TikTok,
I'm like
TikTok.
yeah, so I'm like, dude, I'm like we have like 20 minutes for mailbag. Like hurry up. Like we've spent 18 minutes talking about one provision on Rafard's Vengeance. Like get out of here, man. So yeah, there's no real mailbag this time because again, despite all the times that I sort of plead to the community not to send us questions about card balances and what do I think of the meta. Like I appreciate all the input. I do, I promise you, but I think that Pawel Burza is not the person that we're gonna.
No.
Yeah, this is not for you. You guys
Like
can.
I'm not that very good when it comes to like going in depth into card abilities and stuff like that. I mean, people all know that maybe my knowledge of Gwent itself is not great to like the sense of actually knowing how all the mechanics and all the triggers and abilities work 100%. And I'm not afraid to say that I'm not the best source of information for that. And I also don't say that I don't necessarily balance questions. Easy, it's easy. But yeah, like I have things which I see or things which I agree or disagree with. Same was like I was a very strong opponent for Gord actually having a ceiling, but then while I was talking with the designers, they kind of explained it to me, and we went back and forth, and then we got to a point where we're like, okay, I kind of get you guys. So it is something that I like to have this back and forth with them, but it's not something that I would say like, oh, I'm totally right, I know the best because I played this game and my right is right. So
yeah, I feel like you and I are kind of in the same boat because oftentimes whenever I give suggestions to things, there's like 900 people are saying like, okay, here are 40 reasons why you're wrong. I'm like, okay, I got you. Like, I feel you. Thank you. I will once again spectate. Thank you for. Thank you for that. Yeah. So the one question we did get actually that is completely Burza related is the fact. It was basically asking you where you get your suits, and I know the answer to this because when we were doing tournaments in person, I was part of this process.
But the process changed.
Did it?
So you can explain your experience.
Okay,
first,
so
and I'll tell you what changed.
First of all, this experience was amazing. It was the best experience ever because I've never experienced something like this ever since I moved out of my parents' house where somebody is laying out clothes for me and, dressing me and making sure I look good. But I have never had makeup on in my life. I had none of those things. And that was always a super cool experience was to sit in that chair and just get painted on. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty, bitch. Like, I am beautiful. But the name, what was the name of the makeup artist? Was it
Malvina?
Yeah, and the wardrobe person, was that Anya?
Yes.
So
got it.
They were so awesome. First of all, the makeup artist was not having any of my stupid jokes. Like she's like, I have like 9 people to do. Like, shut the hell up and get the hell out of here. So Anya, however, loved my stupid jokes. So
she can talk for days.
It was my favorite.
Yeah.
So here's how the process works. For those who don't know, we'd show up usually a couple days before. It was like on the Friday, I think, where they'd basically, and it was like kind of a great day for us as casters because we didn't know what we were going to wear. So there was always this beautiful reveal, like a leak, a campaign, like a reveal campaign.
Good.
Right? Where they're like, and you always got like the best and shiniest jackets. And I was always super jealous. But they'd show up and she'd be like, here are the 2 jackets and suits that you're going to wear, the jackets you're going to wear and the shirts that you're going to wear and the ties. And I'm like, sweet. Then you get suited, you do whatever. You're wearing jeans underneath because I don't think it really matters, or I did. And that was part of it. And there was a wardrobe person who would essentially show up with all the goods and then we'd try them on. And usually it was like you, me, and Dane and Panda in the room, all getting like, we're all like half naked and we're like, look at this and look at this. And we're like, yeah. And that's how that went. And I'm now I'm learning that it changed because here I am at home and I've been sort of cycling the same 2 or 3 different like sport coats If anyone wants to rewind the tapes and look at all the at-home tournaments, you will notice there is a light gray one and a dark gray one. And the light gray
Good
one,
choice.
yeah, the light gray one has the Northern Realms pin on it, and the dark gray one has my Montreal Canadiens pin on it. So you guys can follow along and take bets. It's a 50-50 on which one I'm going to wear on day one. But the process has changed apparently.
Yeah, since we moved on to mainly doing everything from home, what we do right now is we have actually one person that joined the events team. So the girl's name is Ola. She is working with Repec. And she pretty much now goes through the internet, through like all the big, let's say, clothing brands that are sellers in Poland. And she pretty much creates a document with like 4 different options, and I get to choose what I want, or I can also pitch my ideas, and I get that stuff delivered and just put it on and wear it. So easy.
That is pretty sweet. And then you return it.
And then we return it, yeah.
And you know how I know? Is because you still have the tag on the sleeve. Just like, I didn't want to mention it, but I was like, of course.
The same thing happened when we had Anya working. Like
yeah.
She would return those things.
I remember because
it's amazing.
Dane asked once. Dane had a really cool jacket, and he's like, how can I keep this? And she's like, well, like I'll tell you how much it is, and you could pay for it. And he's like, yeah. And I don't know if he bought it or not, but I
think he did.
Yeah, it was a really cool jacket, and like I missed that whole process in itself because it was like it was the preamble to everything, right? Like where we like the first time I met you was at like the dressing or the wardrobe fitting or whatever, and that was like that was such a good time. Like,
holy shit, it's you!
Exactly, that was the coolest part. I was like, hey, I know you, and you're like, who are you again? Who is this guy? And then you told all of your different aides and bodyguards to get me the hell away from you.
Don't say that because people might actually believe that this is true and it's not.
Well, I mean, I only got to see you behind like the velvet rope thing, but yeah, like I was immediately told no flash photography and
no handshaking.
Yeah, nothing like that. Like basically, and you never took your sunglasses off, even indoors. Like I was just like, wow, this guy's a total rock star. None of that's true.
No.
Pavel came into
we hugged.
We did. You came into the room, and the first thing we did was give a big hug, and I was like, okay, it's on from here. And my man, like
good days.
It was good days. And the one thing that really cemented the fact that because I always loved you, and I like you're like again, like I said,
likewise.
Like you're like a brother to me in this whole journey that we're on. But the one thing that really got to me was at the end of Challenger 4 when I've told the story a few times, but if you haven't heard this out there, Pavel's known for having a favorite beer, which is not necessarily everyone's favorite or probably their first choice. What beer is that?
Królewskie, yeah.
Okay. So I
really bad.
Well, I mean, you enjoy it. It's like it's kind of like for those. I'm gonna give a really niche reference for those from like Quebec. It's like the Labatt Wildcat, which is basically the beer that construction workers.
So bad.
It's terrible. It's what construction workers drink at 10 a.m. Like that was the beer. You can get it it was like $1.50 a can at like the gas station, and that was basically they fuel up their like pickup trucks at like 7 a.m. and buy like a 6-pack of Wildcat for the day. Like that was their deal. Anyways, so it was the end of Challenger 4, a huge spectacle. It was the Skellige thing. We had rented a base, like, or built it. There was like people, there's archers, and it was a grand spectacle.
Like wild animals there too.
Dude, there was like an eagle or a falcon. There was a bunch of geese and chickens. Oh, it was incredible. Like it was the best, most amazing thing. And God knows how many bird-related flus I may have contracted at that point. But still, it was so cool. But at the end of it, like there was like all like the big celebration. DeMorkis wins. It's a whole thing. Everyone's drinking and eating and having a good time. And you come up to me and you're like, I want to have one of my beers. And I was like, oh, okay. And people are like, don't do it. It's garbage. Don't drink it. It's sewer water and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. Fine. And then you're like, no, this is my favorite beer, so you can have one. And I was like, oh, he's like, yeah, I don't let any.
it was our bonding moment right there.
It was, and I was like, I don't care how terrible this beer is, it's going to be my
I
favorite
will
beer.
drink it.
Yeah, I will drink it. I drank it, and the other thing that everyone warned me was that you usually disappear after tournaments to like go take care of like, you got stuff to do. You had a family and stuff like that to take care of and whatever. And you stuck around, and we got to hang out a little bit, and it was like one of my most endearing moments to say that.
I also remember that one. It was really awesome.
It was, and remember, remember it was you, me, and Ashley went to go to that lady who made bracelets. And, and she made us, I tried to explain to her with my broken Polish that I need 3 bracelets, and she didn't understand. So then you had to go and kind of like bridge the gap and be like, no, my slow friend here needs 3 bracelets. So, good times, man. And,
good times, man.
And there's a whole other year to come, and we can talk about that on another day. But I think that I think that this has been. Forget about Shinmiri. Let's just come back next week, man. Like, who is
easy?
That guy? Yeah.
Anytime you need me. Anytime you need. I also wanted to, because we're talking, I'll just interject shortly about the Aya thing, since I didn't see her also due to the pandemic. She was actually the person who got me suited up for my wedding this year. So I went to her like workplace. She has this awesome like loft type of building where you go in, and she has like a shit ton of clothing there because she also works on on TV sets and stuff like that. So the experience was even better because it's like an old school loft somewhere in Praga, and we went there and she showed me like all the stuff, and then the like first one we just pretty much sat down and we like browsed through the internet like, oh, this is cool, what do you think about this, maybe let's go this way. And she like pitched for the first thing. She's like, how do you think about going all white, like white suit? I was like, white? I was like, But it's like, no, this is like an off-white. It'll be a little bit darker. It won't be like, cream white. So you're good. I'm like, I think that's a little bit too flashy. She's like, no, come on. You have the golden suits and stuff and you love those. I'm like, true. She's like, okay, I'll trust you. Let's try it. And I ordered this stuff and it came in. And I went to her for the first fitting and I put everything on, and it was pretty much her. She has like this incredible, like beautiful mind where she just sifts through like the internet and finds you and sends you links. And then when you get the things and you put them on, like all of them on you, you're like, oh my God, these combinations actually work. She's like, you feel like she has like the skeleton key to clothing. Like she knows how to put things together and they will look awesome while you're there like looking on the internet. Yeah, I like this, I'll order this, and then you put it on. I'm like a freaking totally doesn't work. Wow. And so she was doing the clothing, and we had Malvina come in and do the makeup for my wife, for Dominika, and for like our moms and stuff like that. So we pretty much we got to know them because of work, and they transitioned into a part that was connected to our life and stuff like that, which is amazing. So kind of shows you that these relationships that you build, they transcend the stuff that is only work related, but they also become like a real thing. And the same thing was our bro moment with the cheap shitty beer.
It was delicious. It tasted like friendship, and that's all I could ask for.
Exactly.
Well, my friend, again, I do sincerely appreciate you being on the show, covering for Shinmiri, who's got some IRL stuff, man. I say this to Shinmiri to end every show. I say I love you, and I mean it, man. So
I love you too, man.
It's gonna happen
Amazing
soon.
Stuff.
We're gonna be together at some point, and I will. Again, I'm gonna open my invitation to you to anytime that you want to come visit me here in Toronto. I am trying to put together, like, every single time that I'm like, okay, let's get the wheels turning on this, a new variant of COVID comes out. So but I want to do a North American like Gwent kind of get together, not like necessarily not like a tournament, but like I want to do an on location podcast, an on location trivia, like everyone gets together. Like
amazing.
And I'm inviting everyone who from CDPR who wants to be there. I don't know when this is going to happen, but now that we have a roadmap, I can probably better place it sometime, probably late summer into the fall or something like that. But friends, you guys all love Pawel Burza, and as I do. So again, big thanks for being on the show, my man. And you can lead us out, because I always say I love you, and Shinmiri says some other nonsense that I never pay attention to. So I'm giving you the keys to sort of lock the door on the way out here.
Well, first of all, I hope I did a good job filling in, although I know I am no Shinmiri for sure. But yeah, everybody, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay happy, enjoy life, and yeah, I think that's it. Flake, thank you for having me.
That's a great ending, my friend.